Turnkey with Morgan Francis, sponsored by Integrity Roofing.
Welcome into Turnkey on Queen City News Plus, your go-to show for everything real estate in the Carolinas. We talk about the latest market trends, do's and don'ts of the industry, and provide expert advice on navigating this dynamic landscape that we call home. I'm your host, Morgan Francis, and today's guest has quite the resume, a man of many talents. He has dabbled in Hollywood as an actor and now has his lens laser focused on real estate in the Carolinas. Perry Silver.
That's right. Welcome. Thank you. All of it.
Hollywood icon.
Hollywood icon. That's right. My lens is focused.
Yes.
That was the before times,
Yeah.
for sure. But it impacts how I treat my clients, how I organize myself, and how comfortable I am with strangers, which obviously, as you know, comes into play a lot.
Well, I was thinking about this. I was imagining like going on auditions and
Sure.
trying for these. It's not easy, right? You're trying to sell yourself like everyone else who's been in and out of the room before and after you. And it's kind of like real estate is you're trying to sell yourself to someone that trust me. And it's hard to get over that hurdle with a complete stranger is trust me with the most expensive purchase of your life.
That's right. And I think what helps is that you learn, listen, I was acting from when I was, 8 years old until maybe 28, before I kind of started transitioning into real estate. I'm 47 now. And what you realize is it's not personal in either career. And there is a actor for every job and there is a broker for every client. I'm not everybody's broker, right? I might not connect with you, but if I'm going to connect with you, I'm going to connect with you better than anybody else. If you feel that there's that simpatico, that energy, I'm going to figure out, is this going to make sense? Because it has to be a two-way street, right? A client, broker relationship. So I don't take it personally, and I'm going to try to find people that I'm going to find success with as well.
Well, you mentioned you're not everyone's broker, but you've been a lot of people's broker because you've been a real estate agent in California, in New York.
That's right.
And now here in North Carolina.
Correct.
Those are very different markets.
Aren't they?
Yeah. I mean,
they
yes,
absolutely are.
Yes and no, maybe.
No,
but
100%. New York being the most idiosyncratic kind of specific market, you really are a real estate advisor. And that's not taking anything away from the folks that do that and do that really, really well. It's, I think, less about the bones of the property. When we get into real estate in both California, you're dealing with seismic scenarios. And in the Southeast, in Charlotte, specifically, we're dealing with humidity, clay, mold, moisture, right? All the fun stuff, as well as the bones of the property itself. I'm a little bit more tactile. I like the physical space that we deal with and how to read inspection reports, how to understand what the flags that might be, red, green, skull and crossbones that might be showing up. And so I love...
Would that be radon?
That's a good skull and crossbone. And that I just tend to love the physical purchase of it. Now, townhomes, condos, still there, but obviously, in New York, that's 99% of what you're doing is a multi-family condo space, a box in a box in a box.
Right.
And then just kind of how is it layered, right? Does this face south? Are you getting this light? Do you have central air? I mean, these things that we take for granted are big deals in a city.
I was just listening to a comedian actually talk about living in New York with a roommate and a curtain separating the two bedrooms. And that's how it is. That's what people are used to. And you mentioned, a box within a box.
A box within a box.
Yeah.
My wife and our dog many years ago lived in New York City. And the joke is that we had like a little hallway. It was like a 300 square foot place. And when one of them was kind of crossing, the other one would have to like back up to give space. So...
Well, I lived on Long Island for a number of years. I went to Hofstra there, so I'm familiar with the city and New York and the lifestyle and all of that. It really is just kind of a one-of-a-kind place specifically we're talking about real estate, but just in general too.
For sure.
So how do you then sell yourself to a client? And maybe more so is on the other side of the coin is how does someone pick the right agent?
Right. So I think you're looking for a couple things immediately, right? You're looking for proficiency, expertise, like that should be, the first, second, third things you're looking for. There's going to be a lot of situations where folks are presented, first-time home buyers specifically, I think, are presented with a choice for a broker who's a friend.
Mm-hmm.
And it is a familial relationship. It is a colleague's wife or husband or cousin.
Which is fine. Go with someone you trust.
All fine. But that, and I think personality comes to play. Hey, I trust X. They've recommended Y. I'll meet Y. I mean, I would do that for vendors of anything, right? However, I then want to find out is if that's all there is to that broker, that's pretty dangerous stuff, I think.
Right.
Right. Even, and we all have to get our start at some point, but are you teamed up with someone? Right? Do you have a mentor that's maybe been doing this a long time? Are you part of a team? Are you part of a brokerage that gives me comfort as a buyer? I think all of that comes into play.
Right. I mean, like you said, everyone has their first sale.
Yeah.
And, you don't. And you do know what you're doing, but you don't at the same time.
As you're helping
takes
somebody
reps.
with probably the most expensive purchase of their lifetime.
Right. So as you mentioned, having that team behind them that at least that they're saying, hey, I don't know the answer to your question, but I'm going to ask my team.
That's right.
And there's some comfort in that. We have our title here, COVID Hangovers for Sellers. Let's take a look at just kind of how the market looks now compared to what it was just a few years ago.
Sure. So a few years ago, right, it is the wild, wild west. Everything's, the upside down world. Rates are as low as they'll ever be for our lifetime, and they're the lowest that we'd ever seen. There was the great kind of, migration of cities. Obviously, Charlotte,
Huge
was
impact from that.
right. We benefited substantially in many ways, but we also had an influx of folks. And what we realized is a lot of our folks weren't really trying to go anywhere else. They were buying second homes. They were buying escape pods to a degree, right? But really, they were like, no, Charlotte's kind of already one of those places you move to sometimes for quality of life. So people weren't leaving, which meant fewer homes. So what happened is, right, maybe you weren't selling then. Hey, if you did, you killed it. But of course, you had to buy something, and you probably didn't kill it on that side.
Right.
But now the sellers that are selling now still have that in the back of their head. They do remember a couple years ago, I remember when my neighbor's home sold. They put on the market in one day. It was in pretty meh shape, right? They didn't have to paint anything. They didn't have to fix the carpet or the landscaping.
They didn't even have to clean.
They didn't even have to clean. That's right. That's totally correct. They probably didn't even have to have electricity on at that point to sell their house or a roof on it, right? And yet buyers are much more tight right now. They are waiting. They don't know necessarily always why they're waiting. I don't think there's always rationale. Rates are not, there is no, I think, momentous market coming up moment that is going to drop everything. I don't have a crystal ball, but I don't think any of us feel that way. And certainly our lenders aren't telling us that that's around the corner. It's simply a matter of, I want to make sure, right? I'm not getting some killer deal and my rates aren't, 2%. So now I have to just buy sensibly again. I have to buy this purchase, which is really, really serious, in a sensible way. So you can't blame them, but sellers don't totally connect to that, right? So there's the hangover. There's the disconnect of a seller who wants to get 20 offers, sell it on day one. Make me move. Get me. I'm excited. I'm the king for a day. And buyers like, no, thank you. And I think that is a bit of a mind a meld issue, right? It's our job as brokers to prepare your sellers, right? Especially when you're pitching for the job, that sounds very doomsday, right? You think that you should be going into a pitch, which is really just a conversation, and saying, here's the, my analysis of your property. This is my analysis of where we are in the market today, the types of buyers. Here are some bumps that can happen. And a lot of folks want to kind of, push all that away and just say, oh my gosh, it's going to be great. We're going to sell this super quick. You're going to make so much money. And then we'll deal with the repercussions later. And that's not helpful to anybody.
Well, and every seller has an idea in their mind of what they want to walk away with, how much money they want to make on their property. And sometimes that doesn't always match up with the reality.
Yeah.
And I think it's easy for a seller to hire the guy who says, yeah, I can sell your home for X.
I know.
When there's someone else who says, well, I can sell it for less than that, but maybe one's being a little bit more realistic.
Oh, sure. And on top of that, and by the way, I've lost deals. We've all lost deals to the folks who say, wait, how did I lose that deal? Oh my gosh, look what they're listing that house for, right? I didn't believe that
And then
that
it's
was,
gonna sit.
and it's sitting. And then it's cutting. And then a lot of times I get the call again, right? And say, hey, I think we're ready. And again, I'm happy to revisit that conversation. I don't take it personally. I understand. I would get excited too by a vision of less conflict, less struggle, and a higher sale price. My job is to say, we're still going to, and I believe this even during COVID, let's do the work beforehand, before we list, to make sure that we have the best chance of success down the road, right? And because I never changed that mindset, I'm positioned pretty well in this market.
Do you think that COVID hangover for sellers, that mindset is going to change? Like, when is the moment that it's, or is it changing? And I'm sure part of that is, their agent having those conversations, but when do you think we're going to reach a point where sellers don't feel that way, that they can just put a number out there and everyone will go for it?
Yeah, we're still in a pretty low inventory environment in Charlotte, right? And so that's the funny thing. We're pretty tight on inventory, certainly kind of inside central Charlotte, without new builds, right, on the exterior of it. But buyers are still taking their time. So I think it's the longer you see your neighbor with that sign out there, I think it becomes pretty apparent, hold on a minute, I'm seeing real world moments that say this is not COVID. This is not the crazy times. So, I mean, another year or two, it's already changed, right? Sellers are already coming to understand what we've been telling them, that it's still the good times, but I would say that it's there's a little bit more equilibrium, right, to the market than it was before. And that's good for everybody, to be totally honest.
Well, you don't want to misjudge the market, and then all of a sudden, like we mentioned, you're sitting there with a home that you
isn't
can't
that the
sell.
worst?
So how does someone judge the market accurately? Obviously, getting an agent, that's one thing, right?
Sure.
But how can a seller do their own due diligence, or a buyer, and kind of try to project what's happening with the market? Who is that person that they can follow that really knows what's going on?
Yeah, and it doesn't have to be such a black box, right? We as agents like to kind of elevate our importance just because of the nature of our job. But to a degree, how is a buyer going to know so much of that day-to-day scenario without a really good partner, a really good broker kind of guiding them, who's in the trenches every day, and realizing that there are, in the middle of a spring market or a fall market, man, it can change by the day. It can change by the week. Boy, last week was a little funky, right? This week feels a little hotter. And I don't think I'm smart enough to know always exactly why those micro moments happen.
Right.
It can be as much as one single sale in your neighborhood that was, you say, oh my gosh, but they got X. Well, if you know behind the scenes, yes, but they had just sold their house. They had like 2 weeks to get out. Maybe mom was pregnant. School was
duress,
coming.
yeah.
There was duress. Maybe there was a divorce. You don't know behind the scenes unless you're activated and saying that's why that number, was maybe 40,000 beyond what the comps say.
Even the neighborhoods that, homes don't hit the market, and all of a sudden there is a home on the market. And they're like, the comps don't support this high of a price.
They don't need
it's like,
to.
well, if you pay attention to what's happening off of MLS, it isn't public knowledge.
Sure. So what that is also, Morgan, is you're describing kind of that off-market world, right? And there's been changes with NAR, right, National Association of Realtors, to limit some of the off-market or pocket listings, and now they've kind of given, I'd say, sellers a little bit more control back into their lives to sell their home the way they want to, which I believe is extremely important. Some folks it's privacy, it's divorce, it's change of job, they want only folks that are coming through that can buy their house. They don't want the looky-loos. In COVID, it was, hey, I've got multi-generational people at home. I got grandma. I got kids doing pod schooling. I've got immunocompromised people at home. I don't want 100 people through my house. And so off-market became another way to do this a little bit more efficiently and safely. for a lot of our clients. Listen, brokers, we always want to maximize, right? Get it out, put it out. It's wonderful for marketing, but you have to listen to your sellers. And so understanding that there is an off-market world, and at my brokerage, we do anywhere between $700 million and $1 billion a year. We only have 100 agents, right? We do all the price points, but we do a lot of pretty strong price points as well, right? Eastover, Myers Park, Foxcroft, et cetera.
Right.
And there's a good amount of off-market trading there, right? Especially new construction. If you can get the number and a builder can get what they need, that helps their bottom line. They can move on to the next project. So sometimes they're inclined to sell, before breaking ground. Other times they say, you know what, this is going to be a special house. We're trying to get a certain sale price. We're going to wait until all the jewelry's in, the Sub-Zero, the Gagano, the pretty backsplash.
Especially for the model home. The model homes always look the nicest. Right?
They look the nicest, absolutely. But to understand what that off-market world is, when sometimes 10, 20% of your volume in a year can be off-market, it really is a benefit for your buyers or sellers to have that partner who's saying, this is why, or these are some reasons why, right?
What about the builders? You mentioned the builders. I feel like a lot of times they know what's going on in the market.
Nostradamus, yes. They do. Yeah. They see it all before we see it, right? It's because they have to think a couple years out.
Right.
Our folks, right, are generally thinking right now. What is this transaction for me? How does it look? How's my job? Am I going to get that bonus this year? Can I buy that bigger house, or do I need to kind of pull back a little bit? Maybe I'm rethinking what I'm going to get on the sale of my house, and that's going to change the purchase. Builders, my Lord, right? When we get them a property, I work with several builders, and a lot of them are, obviously when I work with them, it's more on the speculative side, right? So they're not doing the custom side. They might do that with their own clients. I'm saying, hey, I've got this, tear down, or I've got some dirt. I've got a lot. Usually it's a tear down. We don't have too many lots left as far as infill in kind of high-end Charlotte.
Well, the developers pick up all the good lots. If there's a lot that's been sitting there for 100 days, there's probably a reason.
There's probably a reason, isn't there? Someone doesn't want to sell, et cetera. And anyway, so those folks they're pricing, they have to price their home today. They can't 100% guess what it's going to be in a year. And if they do, the good ones are conservative, because they've been through markets. They've been through ups and downs. Tariffs. They were there in COVID, and they've been through the tariffs, everything.
Tariffs.
That's changed a big one.
I remember I had to get different countertops because we couldn't get them. I think they were coming from China, and we had to order them from a different country at the time. And this was in 2020. So, now it impacts the cost of materials.
Everything. You name it, right? Everything has gone through the roof. And so I'm dealing with a couple builders right now, and we're trying to have a couple come to Jesus moments where I want to get them excited, right? But I'm always going to be honest and say, hey, right now, today, the comps are X. Now, if this other builder's home sells for Y, well, then we can rechange your comps, right? The irony is they're still 18 months out.
Right.
They're 12 months out for some of these projects, right? And you have to be really, really careful, a little bit conservative, but also creative in how you might sell this property, right? Is it a rendering is going to get it done? Do you need kind of a well-known architect or an interior designer that's going to say this justifies the exit price, right? And a builder is going to take all that into account, look at their bottom line, and say, this is what I will buy this property for. I have seen recently the same home that would have been valued dirt, right, in the heart of Myers Park, that would have been valued at 1.6, which is, yes, ridiculous for a tear down. Ridiculous, right? But at the heart of it, on prestigious streets, and I use that in quotes, sure, that now 1.3, builders aren't buying. I'm saying, do you want it at 1.2? Is it 1.1? I really just want to know, what is your, what's your number? What do you need? And they're just so, I think it's the question mark that they see right now in the market that we don't always see, but I think they're such a good bellwether of maybe what's to come.
Well, and every day that they own it, if they don't buy it in I mean, they're buying it in cash. No one's going to finance land. So
there are still some folks that are doing that on micro deals, and they have to be really careful.
Well, and every day is interest.
Every day.
So
every day.
You gotta make moves on a property like that, and if they're budgeting into their build what can we sell this for, it's going to be an expensive home.
Totally. And they're the investors that are behind the investors, right? The guys that are playing banks. Sometimes they're not the commercial big banks, right? They really are a partner in this deal. You know, they don't want anyone to default on their loan either. So you have a builder, a developer, an investor. You have all these folks that have to come to terms with, we see the value in that property. And so it's good to watch them, right? Because they really are the Nostradamus. They see the future a little bit, I think, clearer sometimes than we all see.
They have the best crystal ball, the least cloudy crystal ball.
Least cloudy.
Okay, so if someone's looking to buy a home, when we fill out the offer, there are so many different things that you can put down aside from the purchase price. But what is the art of the offer? How do you win the deal?
Sure. So I had a mentor a long time ago, and he was really wonderful about teaching me about packaging the offer, right? In this world of data and ChatGPT and all the other websites that I don't even need to plug right now, we know how much houses sell for. Pretty easy to find out that information, right? And while they give estimates that are completely based on zip codes and square footage and an algorithm, but they can't see inside the house, right? We do have a general understanding. Okay, so that means if there's 5 people that are writing an offer on the same home, they all should be in the same ballpark, right? So how do you stand out? I think it starts at the beginning. Right, and so many agents just miss this part. It's human connection. Hey, I'm Perry. Just want to introduce myself. I'm with Dickens Mitchener Real Estate. I have some clients that are really interested in your property. Now, I might not always say really. If I think the home is going to move super fast, yes. What I'm trying to say is keep me in the loop. We might not even be the best offer you get, but we'll get there. Right? I'm trying to make some type of connection that you, the listing agent, is saying, gosh, they're responsive. They're
easy to work
affable.
with.
They're easy to work with. I know they've said who they're with. I feel a connection. If push comes to shove, do I feel like I'm working with a reasonable partner? There's nothing worse than when you have a deal and the other side's representative is either out to lunch or not understanding, unresponsive, all of that.
Doesn't get you the answers that you need, when
all
you're trying to close on time.
Now, everybody has their own factions that they need to represent, especially from a fiduciary perspective. However, we're all trying to get a goal, which is to be respectful, to be professional, et cetera. So now I've said, hey, I'm all those things, right? Hopefully I'm setting myself up to be a great partner in this journey. What do you need? It's amazing how many times when I have a listing and there's multiple buying groups coming out, they're not asking what my clients need. Now, I should be telling them.
Maybe they want to stay 2 weeks after the deal closes.
You name it. Hey, I know this is crazy, but they need to find a way to stay through the school year.
Right, which is like big whoop. If you're trying to close the deal, just whatever they want.
Isn't it nice to figure out those terms? Hey, they really love these light fixtures. If you have to take them, but they have sentimental reasons, et cetera, right? They need more of a due diligence fee, right? That initial kind of,
skin in the
game because of X. They need to feel comfortable. However, that might allow your buyers to take a 0 off of their offer, right? And so it's always trying to do the dance, right? To figure out both what the other side wants and then what's the leverage I can apply to make my clients stand out a little bit higher up in that. Who's your lender? Boy, that matters a lot more than people think. Can I reach out to them I'm glad your rate is great, Mr. or Mrs. Buyer. I'm happy for you that it's 1/10 of a point lower per se to use maybe an automated lender situation. Who is your lender, by the way? Oh, I don't know. It's kind of we got it through the email. They sent a name. They don't work nights, right? They don't work weekends. If something happens with a survey or something else, how can we kind of figure this out? Do we have real adults in the room, right? And there are folks everywhere that are great, and there are folks everywhere that are not as great, in my opinion.
You have to be responsive.
So your name means something in this town.
Now, this wasn't me, but another agent there had a lender who they've worked with on a regular basis, really, really great company. And they called them on a holiday, and it was the one day out of the year that they weren't open. They're open every single day of the year. And he picked up the phone and he said, now I know this is the one day of the year that I don't work. And he's like, I'm so sorry, but I need
Sure.
a pre-qualification like now. And he got it done. So
And
just going to your point.
that client will tell 12 people about that lender.
Yeah.
You've got equity. You've forget your Google reviews and everything else. You just got a client for life who's now a megaphone for how good you are. So I think it all has to do with packaging and deal. Who's your broker? Who is your lender? If that's involved, where's the cash coming from? If it is cash, do you have to liquidate it? Can it be done quickly? Are you understanding my needs and my terms before we even get to that? Maybe you're heading a couple issues off of the past. Hey, we know that's an older HVAC in there. That's fine with my client. Now, some things are on paper and some things are said verbally, right? But you're getting a sense of, okay, where's this person coming from? And I think that's the packaging that makes you stand out.
Right.
Even amongst great brokers.
Well, Perry, I wish we had more time today because I feel like I could talk to you for another 30 minutes
I'm
or
here.
so.
I'm here for you.
So that just means that you'll have to come back on the show.
I would love to. It's such a pleasure. Thank you so much for inviting me.
Yeah, thank you. And to everyone else out there, thank you so much for watching Turnkey on Queen City News Plus. We'll see you next time.
Queen City News Plus. Just search Queen City News on your smart TV's app store.